So while we're here today, Naj, the conversation we're going to have about family help. Sometimes kindness can get complicated.
Yeah.
We see a lot of parents and families providing deposits for homes, even signing away their own home. As a family lawyer, that can be a headache, especially for the courts, because the courts have to decide what was the intention behind it. Was it a gift? Was it a loan? Things get complicated. So as a financial advisor and coach, what would you say to a client that came to you and said, this is my position, Dad's going to give me a big lump sum.
Okay.
How do I protect myself?
So on dynamics wise, there's a saying said, my uncle used to say this a lot. He said, if you want to fall out with someone, either give them money or borrow money. And it's,
yeah, I've heard that before. Yeah.
And do you know, it's not that far from the truth.
Yeah.
It's the things of that, if you bring that, so all of a sudden a third party is coming into the relationship, and someone else has essentially got a stakeholder for it. So you've got to understand what's the expectation. So, for example, one of the things that's just occurred to me is like, actually, I'm giving you this money. I expect to live with you in my old age.
Well, that's true. I've not seen it as candid as that, but there is that expectation, right? It's unwritten expectation, right?
And actually, culturally, I mean, that might be something that does happen a lot in Asian cultures, African cultures, not so much in sort of like in England traditional sort of, white sort of culture. That's starting to happen less, but there could be that expectation. If there is, actually, then you are sort of creating what's called a constructive trust, where someone is essentially, it's not written down, but someone is giving you this money, so they will have a benefit for it.
All right, so can you explain that a little bit?
So essentially, a trust is essentially a way of, think of a box. You take an asset and you put it in this box, and all of a sudden the box protects it. And the only people who can get into it are the trustees.
Okay.
And they open the box and they give things out to the beneficiaries.
Right.
It's basically just putting it in a box. Is loads of is the simplest way I always say for it. Now, when you do things like constructive trust, there's no actual document saying there's a box, but in actual fact there is, because someone's giving you this money to look after it for them, to do something with it on the expectation they'll get something. It's also a contract, I believe, like not written, but that can cause a lot of problems if in a separation, you split the house, that money's gone. And your parents.
Well, it's not gone. It's become part of the matrimonial division of assets, right?
Yeah, but for the parents, it's gone.
Yeah,
true. And they're like, well, hold on a minute. I thought I was going to have somewhere to live, which is, and the person, if it was my parents, I'd be left with a huge amount of guilt about that.
Yeah.
A huge amount of guilt. So again, like people can register charges over houses, which is a good idea, because actually they'll get their money back, have an actual interest in the house. You can put houses and property into trust. There are tax implications for it. You should always take advice on that, depending on the amount it is. All trusts have to be registered with the HMRC now. If they're producing income, so you rent the house out, you have to pay income tax for a self-assessment, trust self-assessment every year at the higher rate. So there are implications of having formalised trusts. But at the same time, having a charge over the house to make sure you get it back, that it is a good thing for the parents' perspective to do.
So your advice to that client then, who's come to see you, is tell your mum and dad to get a written trust to protect
or a charge.
gift.
Or some sort of loan agreement to say, actually, it's a loan agreement that I will want this money back from whoever if on these situations.
Yeah.
And there are loads of different options. It also adds an extra complication if you're in divorce proceedings, because parents might be like, do you know what, forget about it, don't worry about it. And they have to go into it knowing that having that kind of clarity that actually things might not work out. There might be something.
That's true.
And
it's about knowledge,
people, I would imagine from the parents' perspective, are entitled to saying, well, I want to ask some questions actually about, how financially stable are you?
Yeah.
Do you have any debt, or have you had any kind of past behaviour that we should know about if we're going to help you? Because I think it's a fair thing to say. I mean, like,
it is incredibly fair, but this is what we talked about in our last conversation: is that financial clarity is fairness.
Yeah.
But who has that conversation? Everyone's all happy and doolally over the impending marriage. Everyone's like choosing their dresses and booking the halls. But when does mum and dad sit down and say, right, we're going to give you £50,000. Have you got any debts? I mean, How do you even have that conversation?
And
how do we protect it? I mean, Naj, I've had grandmothers who have come to me and said, we signed over the family home, or my home, if she's a widow, to my son when he got married, right? And with the expectation that I will live with them. And she may have lived with them, right, in the family home. But then when it comes to divorce, obviously every case turns on its own facts, right? But the grandmother, or the mother, I should say, is potentially looking at losing her place to live.
Yeah.
Because if this family home gets carved up in divorce proceedings, then where does she go?
Exactly.
And I've seen it. I've seen that kind of
it's
sort of
big problem at the moment of like in this country generally, elderly care is a huge problem.
Yeah.
So the Care Act came in 2014. It said that essentially local authorities can, if you have over assets of 23,000,
that's right,
can go into, and it's people lose their houses.
Yeah.
Same time, actually, local authority are like, oh, well, we have to pay for this care. It's not cheap.
Yeah. So some of the elderly parents thought they'd had a hack, that we would transfer it to our kids on their marriage. We'll have the bedroom upstairs and everything will be fine.
So there are certain traps there it's called deliberate deprivation of assets.
Okay.
So if you have given something away in contemplation that you might go into care, it can basically, the local authority can disregard that and say, we are going to take that back. We're going to charge the estate on your death, or we're going to claw that money back somehow. And they do. So
you've actually got a double headache there then.
Yeah, you've got
them maybe making a clawback, and then you might have, if things don't go right with your son and his wife, then you've got potential divorce proceedings having a go. So where do you go?
I mean, for me personally, I would say, can you downsize? Instead of actually...
To who? To the
parents. Okay. To the parents, and saying, instead of actually, I'm giving you the family home, is it a good idea to say, well, I'm going to downsize? Can you release some equity via, maybe getting a mortgage, or... something like that, if you want to keep the ownership.
So retain financial independence, is that what you're saying?
Financial independence is really important.
Yeah.
And particularly when it comes to things like who you're trusting to look after your finances in your elderly care. So having LPAs, but if say it's your son getting married and the wife, once they get divorced, they're going to have to remake their LPAs.
Yeah.
And
is there anything they can do then to protect themselves if financial independence or living separately is not an option? For example, because of age or just loneliness, a lot of parents come back if they're single or widowed to come and live with the children. What can a client do in that situation if they're thinking of, living with their children? How can they protect themselves financially from any impending sort of future disasters?
So there are certain, you can have money in a bank account that's in a trust bank account that's yours. You can also have separate assets. So like you can have care annuities, so which will basically pay out a certain amount of money to any care provider, to making sure that you've got some money there for care. But also, making sure as well that if on divorce, I would say go to a prenup, someone gets the money back, and then that is recognised. And I'd say, again, have a good audit trail of these things. I think the issue comes in is that there is a disparity between, in the last generation, the baby boomers didn't really get divorced. It wasn't.
It's true.
It's funnily enough, now the largest demographic of population that are getting divorced and remarried is actually the 70s and above. They're getting divorced and getting remarried because it wasn't a done thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And in Asian culture, it wasn't. But now people often think, well, they'll do what I did, because why wouldn't you? But it's not the same thing. People get, divorce rate, I think, is like nearly 50%. As a lot, people are getting divorced. So have a realistic expectation of, this might happen. And be honest with your parents as well and say, look, hold on, are you comfortable with it?
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to live with that.
Yeah.
If someone...
This is true. That's the conversation that has to happen.
I think people would just be... I would be heartbroken if, I put my money... But if my mum gave us loads of money and then got and lost, and I don't know how I would have the conversation. You know, you have to have the conversation.
That'd be so hard.
It'd be awful. You would just.
But then protect yourself with the things that you've said, the suggestions you've made about the trust, but also again maybe a prenup.
Yeah.
If you're contemplating the marriage, that will mum and dad's payment be protected? Will that be returned? You know, on separation or divorce, a cohabitation agreement. You know, those kind of things. If you've had that conversation, then use the tools available to protect that position.
There's other, not so much either formal advice, but there are other practical things I've seen people do. One of my friends, brilliant, they got married and they said, right, okay, parents bought a flat. They said, right, we're going to let you live in this flat for 2 years rent-free. You don't pay us any rent, but in that time, we're expecting you to get a deposit together.
Okay.
So they saved the equivalent of what was probably £800-900 a month. You know, said, right, we expect you to get a deposit for a house together. So all for those 2 years, they saved a huge amount of money, and then they went and bought a house, and they were on the property ladder.
So it's about the parents who are maybe contemplating giving gifts, thinking there's a different way you could do that.
Yeah, there is a different way.
Yeah,
And,
so be creative in your thinking.
Maybe not do it straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe don't. Maybe say, look, actually, at the moment, you know, we'll give you a deposit for a smaller house, but I just be realistic. Are you going to stand the test of time?
Yeah.
If there are kids involved, I think you'll know from the legal perspective, actually who gets the house is a different,
Absolutely.
It's a different ballgame.
It shifts the dynamic.
You know, I mean, my in-laws, when I was very ill in 2023, and my in-laws, you know, through no fault of mine, we had to, but they said, you know, we were going to help you out a little bit, which was hard. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't a position I thought was seamless. You know, I had protection and stuff, but it's still very difficult.
Yeah.
You know, but they were very sure like that's as much as it's going to be, but they were quite adamant. Said, well, hold on, it's our grandkids. We don't want them struggling. There was the other aspect of it. They were saying it's not just actually about you anymore.
Yeah.
It's about we want to see our grandkids okay. But that didn't happen straight away in our marriage. That happened like after 3 or 4 years, and we had kids.
Yeah.
So they knew that there was some kind of, you know, there was a solid basis for them to invest in. Be realistic. If kids are getting married at 20, is it going to last? Because I'm not the same person I was when I was 20.
Yeah. No, it's very true. I think sensible suggestions there is to weigh, and I think more people should, to build up a trust, maybe to make sure that whatever they're investing. It's funny because if you had a lump sum and you're looking to invest, you'd do all the homework. You'd speak to everybody about, is this a good investment? Is this a good financial thing to, you know, put our money into? But when it comes to giving away money to your children, it's very much done without any kind of checks or conversations or financial disclosure or discussion. It's very much done from the heart, isn't it? In terms of, we love our son, we love our daughter, here's a big lump sum of money. But if that's done very early on without letting the marriage stabilise a little bit, then you're open to all kinds of risks. What about intergenerational wealth then? And that, you know, is a big topic at the moment.
This is a huge thing within the financial planning community. Dating right back after to the Second World War, huge growth. We were, you know, the backdrop is Britain came into Europe. This massive economic growth started to happen. Baby boomers, huge amount of wealth. I always say it now, was the average house price in the 1970s was just over £40,000.
Right.
The average house price now in the UK is 247k.
Wow.
So that's over 5 times the amount above inflation. It's a huge amount of money. That's accounting on today's money, not that's both in today's money. Now, what it means is that baby boomers have a lot, carry the vast amount of wealth in the UK.
Right.
So in the next sort of 10, 15 years, there's going to be this huge transfer of wealth. So people are starting to plan for it. What do we give away?
Yeah.
What do we do? How do we avoid inheritance tax?
Yes, that's a big one.
It's a huge issue, especially now pensions as of 2027 will become part of the estate. That's right. It's a huge thing. Intergenerational wealth is actually about, but then the other side of it, you can't give money to someone that's not going to use it for a particular purpose. So quite often people will set up things called, like, you know, they'll set up family trusts. The good thing about it is it bypasses any other generations. It does protect.
Explain how those work for those that don't understand.
On death of one parent or both parents, a pocket of money will go into a trust. It'll go into that little box. And essentially, someone will only be able to take out, a trustee will only be able to take it out, and they can even specify what purposes they want it used for.
That's called, is that a defined trust?
There's discretionary trust, and there's bare
Discretionary.
trust, and then there's absolute trust.
Yeah.
They're all basically, there are different things around them, but discretionary trust, essentially you can use it for, and you can appoint money out of
For
it.
whatever the purpose it was defined.
But
Yeah.
quite often you would leave a letter of wishes saying for the trustees,
Yeah.
who probably are independent,
Yeah.
you have to trust your trustees,
Yes.
you know, and say, look, you know, we only want it for this, we only want it
Yeah.
for that, you know, spell out what you want it used for.
So that's quite a good tool to protect intergenerational wealth, isn't it? To stop it being squandered. And
It's a good tool to stop things being used. Some people now are starting what's called family investment companies. So these are basically limited companies that hold assets between, and family members are shareholders. And they are more of a complex kind of, I have someone I refer that to, but they are for not always just really wealthy people, but people that have
and it's interesting to see how the family courts deal with those kind of trusts as well.
Yeah.
You know, because they have a whole different set of variables to look at. The Section 25 factors. Children are, you know, a priority in that list, and they're being able to house children of any marriage. But where you have things in play like your discretionary trusts, then the courts have to look at the picture in a holistic way to say, are we able to get these assets into the matrimonial pot or not? And I think when it comes to things like a discretionary trust, it's going to be difficult to do that. So not saying that's going to be the right thing for everyone to do,
No.
But again, it's a very important tool to protect your future, and specifically intergenerational wealth.
I think exactly that. And I think the other thing where there is intergenerational wealth is having an idea of what it's. So for example, a trust, okay, you can say you can put it in a trust, but actually you need a trust bank account. Trust needs to be registered.
Yes.
Trust have tax implications. So making sure you get good advice. People have set up trusts and not really known how to what the full implications of them are.
Yeah.
Is very important. You know, making sure as well, in terms of like, some of my clients have a huge pension, you know, spend it, because you're going to get swallowed up by inheritance tax. Take your 25% tax-free cash out, and it doesn't always have to be for your kids. Some people like to use it for their grandkids. Some people just like to spend it, actually, which is, you know, I always say, you sure you want to?
See, that's interesting you say that, because, you know, we're having all these discussions about protecting your financial wellness. But you said early on, you need to inbuild a bit of fun into your life as well.
Yeah.
We're also bent on protecting our assets, and, you know, as a family lawyer, it's like, oh, what can I do to make sure that if I end up in a situation where the marriage breaks down, how do I protect my assets? It's all about that. But you forget that life is to be lived as well.
Exactly.
So can I talk about gold?
Of course you can.
So in our communities, gold is a big asset.
Yeah.
And people, when I have this conversation with couples who are not from our community, it's like, yeah, I've got an engagement ring, or I've got a wedding ring. Whereas in the South Asian community, gold is seen as a huge asset. It was specifically given to people on wedding, not for decorative or wow, it looks pretty, but for use on a rainy day. I mean, that's what I was brought up to believe. So how, in terms of that being a gift from a family, I often see that people have given large amounts, you know, different parts of the family have given large amounts of gold to the couple, and then they'll start arguing on divorce that actually that was a gift to the bride, that was a gift to the husband, it was for a rainy day, but they won't have any receipts, won't have any, you know, valuations. And it's a massive, in the courts at the moment, it's a huge bone of contention when it comes to bringing those kind of cases to court. What would be your sort of guidance around gold as an asset?
Gold as an asset, it's fun. Gold as an asset, as a precious metal, has stood the test of time.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the finance world, it's really funny. The American economy used to be linked to the gold standard.
I heard this because I've been reading about this, because it was an all-time high.
Yeah.
But then somehow America's got involved and is trying to devalue it. Is that right?
So what happened was they needed to print more money.
Yeah.
The economy needs to print more, but the currency was linked to the standard of gold. Right. So you couldn't print above a certain ratio to the value of gold.
Okay.
Took it away from the gold standard. You can print as much as you like.
Right.
So basically, it's always been a very stable, precious metal.
Yeah.
And it's very decorative, particularly half Punjabi. It's something that, you know, is given at weddings.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with that is you've got cultural expectations, or cultural norms. Everyone's got a different interpretation of what cultural norms are.
Yeah.
Now, I think have the discussion, have it documented of who gets what, because it'd be great if you all said, oh, no, you know what, I want my daughter to have that on her wedding. Actually, if you need to sell it, it's like, well, all of a sudden the knives can come out, particularly if it's a messy divorce.
I've seen it so many times, yeah.
So actually, you know, who keeps it?
And who's got it? And where is it?
How much is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is it? Does someone do a raid around the house and say, I'm taking it now, I'm leaving it?
Yeah.
I've had some clients who said their partners have done that. Like, they know a divorce is coming. They've come home from, one's taken a day off work, and then, you know, all the, you know, the expensive couch has been replaced, and like you know,
it happens.
The TV.
We've heard these stories.
The TV went. And what do you mean the TV went? I'm like, well, I bought a TV for $5,000. It's gone. I'm like, really? Like gold, especially.
Gold, especially. We see this all the time. So again, in a nutshell, in terms of protecting gifts,
I'd say keep it
or loans.
Keep it in a fence. Keep it so keep it in like a safe or something like that. Have a certificate of ownership. Which you can get from jewellers. I believe. Have it valued so you know how much it is.
That's everything that I would say. Honestly, is true. So in a nutshell, Naj, for deposits or gifts or loans from parents to their children, what are the conversations that need to be had, and what are the protections that need to be afforded?
So conversations for the person loaning the money, the parents, I'd say sit down and say, what are you going to use it for?
Right.
So specify what your terms are. You are only going to use it for a property. You cannot use it to go on nice holidays. You know, children's education, something like that. If that's
specify it, right?
Specify. So this is what it's going to be for. Think about actually asking, you know, if it's your daughter that may have had some spending problems, or son, look at that. Actually, ask saying, you know, what you know, are you stable? Have you got a stable career?
Yeah.
Are you good at what you do? Have you had any massive debts? Be really honest about it, and again, stage it so it's not just like come round one night for a cup of tea and then we're sitting down to talk about
Got it.
But and say, look, we want to do this, but we need to, there are some boundaries in place if we're going to do it, and how are you going to feel about it? You then know what to say. Well, okay, I want a cohabitors agreement. I want a prenup. I want something to say that I gave you this money and I want it back. It can be a loan agreement.
Or a charge, like you said.
Or a charge.
Or a restrictive covenant.
Yeah. You know, something like that to say there's some sort of thing. So we gave you this money, we want it back.
Yeah.
And explain the implications as well of saying, like, if this breaks down, we are literally going to lose everything. But again, think about some other ways of doing it. You can own the house and rent it to your children.
That's a good one. Yeah, I've heard that too.
I mean, a couple of friends have done that. They've owned the house, rented it to their children. There is another point on this though. If you give an asset away at a lower price to your children, you are charged capital gains tax at the market rate.
That's
and I had a client ring me, a prospective client who begged to differ with me on this. And I got quite hot under the collar about it. I said, look, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm sorry. You've given it away. You said you don't owe capital gains. You gave it away at a lower value or sold it at a lower value. I'm sorry you do. You know, if you get caught doing this, it's, you know, you will be fined.
Yeah.
So
they'll catch up with you eventually. They always do.
Well, I mean, the HMRC have some incredible technology now. That is, you know, that is really speeding up. I don't propose that anyone tax evasion, but people will do that not thinking that they have a capital gains tax problem, and it's a disposal. It's a disposal at, you know,
it is in their minds. It is definitely
in their minds. It's just a gift. But
so for me, it's like, you know, it's lovely to have the emotion to help your children, because after all, that's what we work for. But think with some clarity again. You know, think with some financial planning. You know that life isn't a straight line. And build in some protections, not just for yourself as the giver of the gift or the deposit or the loan, but also for your children should their relationship not last. I mean, be sensible about it.
Also, look at the lifestyle you're going to want in your retirement. As the parents giving the money, have you sat down and gone, actually, what's the long-term impact of this? So a lot of parents will take out their 25% from their pension to give to their kids. Now, okay, you can say that's a good thing to do, and Bank of Mum and Dad is funding a lot of people's first move on the property ladder. But, it's a lot of money. And if you want the 2 to 3 holidays a year, have you added up how much that's going to cost?
Yeah.
Because you've got to come up with the money, and you're going to get taxed on the rest.
Yeah, it's true.
What do you want after working so hard for many years? I think you're right when you talk about the emotion. It's a great. I mean, my kids are 4 and 1, so I'm not there yet. But I would imagine when my daughter's in, I'd be like, right, everything, And my wife will probably pull me back and go, "Don't be stupid, come on," because I am that kind of very soft, emotional, especially my daughter, and my son as well now. I think
I'm like your wife then, because I think we've put a lot of finances into the children, educated them to a standard where they can earn themselves well. And it's our time to live. It's our time to sort of have that financial security. If we can help them, we will. But we need to have these kind of conversations on how to protect ourselves in the process.
As well, there is another point around giving again to your kids is very important, but just giving money for money's sake sometimes is like, I question whether that is a good. One of the things I do is I do these presentations is the child money model is about how do you teach your kids good money behaviours. This is not about teaching about bank accounts. There's certain behaviours. So things like delayed gratification, envisaging your future self, the value of different activities. So like, for example, if someone engages just watching TV, that doesn't really have a value, but creative play and helping out creates more value. So they understand that sacrifice creates value or money or, so study.
On that, can I ask you something?
Of course.
Because I read a LinkedIn post the other day, and it was all about a chap who's obviously had a lot of wealth that he generated himself. I don't know if it's intergenerational or not, but he'd obviously got a very, very successful business. And his post was all about his children, and that he taught them this kind of financial understanding or importance of money and building your own wealth by always making them fly economy. He would fly first class or business, but for his children, he'd always book economy. And he said, I wanted them to feel the burn of turning right while we turn left in order to make them, think that this is what they want. What's your view on that?
I think there are ways of doing it. I think that is at first it struck me as quite harsh, but at the same time, it's not just magicked up. Like my business is 18 months old. And I'm very much out on the, and I do it for my kids, but I also do it for me. There's no doubt about it. And I could loathe the day when, if either of my kids just expected it to fall into their laps, because it didn't fall into mine. And I heard you talk about your business the other day, starting it at like 15, the amount of time it takes to build that, the level of sacrifice, the nights the more you're sitting there going, what is going to the next month's mortgage or anything like that. And it's an incredibly scary thing. And when you just give kids something, there's no respect for it. Like, actually, it's this problem of you get this intergenerational wealth. Actually, a lot of the wealth people that give money to their kids, they don't give it straight away. I know, so for example, one of my friends, he took over his dad's business. Now, I know his dad very well, and he wouldn't have given his son the business unless he was ready for it, because he's not that stupid. He would have made sure, and he didn't get all of it. It went to someone else who built it with him. So it was like, this entitlement to money, it doesn't grow. It's that old adage, it doesn't grow on trees. Whereas, if you just say, well, okay, we can help you, I'm not necessarily going to give you the whole house. I'll give you a deposit on a leg out. I want to know that, or for every pound that you put in, I'll match 2.
You see, that's the point. And it's about being honest and having creative conversations about how you can help, but also protect yourself. So thank you for that. Tune in for our next conversation.
Thank you.